Hi everyone, Annalise here with some more tips on how to excel. Today we're going to be looking at VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP. So we're going to start with vertical. With vertical lookup, you want your attributes to be in a columnar format. So for instance, policy, all my policy numbers are in the same column. Whereas horizontal, you would see all of the same data in the same row for that attribute. So if we start typing VLOOKUP, you're going to get that Excel tip as usual that kind of tells you what arguments you need and what the function does. So our lookup value, we're going to point towards the cell, which is where we're going to enter our data in just a second. The table array, so we're going to policy and we're going to expiration. And it's important to note that when you're deciding on what array to use, your lookup value has to be in the first column of that array. Lucky for us, it is our first column. So let's see here. This is actually table 4. I can actually just use this whole range and that's going to be fine for what we're doing right now. Column index number, we're going to count left to right to get that. So expiration is what we want. So starting at the leftmost column in our range, which is 1, and then 2 is expiry. So 2 is going to be our column index. And we have two options for range lookup. There's true and false. True is going to look between values. So for instance, if I had like 10, 20, 30, 40 in some table and my lookup value was like 11, right? That's not an exact value that matches one of those, but it's between them. So that's when you might use approximate. Here we're going to use false because we want to actually exact match. And notice it's going to say NA, not available error, which just means that there's nothing in a cell to look up. So now let's enter something. I'm just going to use the first example. All right, and this returned 1221. And as we can see, that's the correct expiry. So that looks good. It's something I should note that your lookup value we would want to be a unique value. So notice that none of these are the same value, which is what we want. However, in this example below, if we're looking by the expiration date, notice that we see multiple that have the same date. And how VLOOKUP works is it's only going to return the value for the first one it finds and matches with. So when we do this, it should return the first ensured value. And something else important to note here is that we want expiration, so we can no longer use the whole table range because then our first column would be policy. So what we can do instead, let's set this as our new lookup value. One way to go about it if you have it in a table is to instead limit your range to the necessary columns. So we're running from expiry, which is this column header, through ensured value. So this should give us the correct array. Column index, again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, cutting left to right from the columns in our array. So we're going to return the 5th column. Again, we're going to use false. And now let's use the expiration of 1221. And again, notice that it picks the first value it matches with, even though there were multiple other values that could have been returned. So that's something to keep in mind as you're designing any tables or VLOOKUPs, that you do want a unique value, otherwise you're going to end up missing potentially data. Now HLOOKUP works pretty much the exact same way. Notice I just took this table and transposed it. So now what used to be columns are now stored in rows. So this works very similarly. We're just going to say HLOOKUP now. Same idea for lookup value, same idea for table array. I don't have this in a table because the headers might have gotten grabbed by that first row instead of the first column. So I'm just going to use a direct cell range here, which you can also absolutely do. Row index number, again, this time we're going to go top to bottom instead of left to right. So 1, 2, expiry is row 2. And again, we're going to say false. We're going to use the same policy number as before, and notice that we still return 1221 as the expiration date. Same idea here for our second one. Our lookup value is going to be an expiration date. Our table array this time, we don't want to use the entire table. Instead, we want to go only for the rows that we need, which are going to be these 5. Again, we're returning 5 and saying false. Let's use that same date from before, and notice that it returns the exact same ensured value. So VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP can be used to return the same data. It's just which way your table is set up for how you're going to extract it. And notice that when we point to a cell reference, again, I could actually put this direct number in here and it would return the same thing. However, if we leave it as a cell reference like this, we can change this number and it will auto update for us. So let's try. Notice that that's still, sorry, let me try something that's different. So 103.15. And notice that this auto updates. And then if we did something even fun, let's do this, and notice that this will also auto update. So let's try. And so now when you start playing with pointing to different cell references, you can really get kind of crafty with this. Alright, so that was a quick overview for Vlookup and Hlookup. I hope this was helpful and stick around for more videos in the future. Thank you.